What is going on? It's Alex coming back at you with another video, and today we're going to be doing a post-combine 2-round mock draft with no trades, one exception, and it is going to be a blast. If you are new, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. You know how to use YouTube. Below my face is my board. It is updated. Still, of course, being continually updated. We'll continue breaking it down as we do the mock draft. Below that is a great way to get involved with all the community. All those great links are also in that link tree. Also, feel free to use the two sponsors of the show with Olipop as well as Underdog. Use those codes. Save some money, make some money, or just have fun and lose money like I do. But at least have fun while doing it, all right? So let's get right into this. Lots to talk about. I actually did a live stream of those last 2 days. You can go back and watch literally 6 hours of it. It is insane. But we actually even have a video of a mock draft with Broshmo while that whole entire thing was going on. So that was during the big 6-hour stream. So feel free to check that out as well. And we have like winners and losers for every single day. So have fun with that. Also, we're going to be doing, this is actually going to happen within the next 1 week. I'm going to do all 32 teams for deep dives, essentially, ultimate draft guides. I promised you it. I was lazy and didn't do it on time, and I'm going to pay the price and still deliver for you. But it's actually been a great experience. So let's get right into this. The only trade we're going to have is a Justin trade here. There's always going to be some bullshit rumors. It's smoke season, smoke screen season. It's smoke season. But I do think the Steelers are still going to be that team that ends up with Justin. That's the only reason why I'm going to have this one minute trade, because it actually does really affect this mock draft. Of course, I could factor in more player trades, but that's where it starts getting a little bit more projection, a little bit more wonky. So we do have that trade right there because the first pick will be Caleb Williams. There's this stupid video about how his medical refusal is dropping his stock. Please. I mean, if you actually listen to the real story and don't want to do some clickbait BS, which is why I hate media, I'm a part of it, but it's why I hate being classified as media, is like we do shit to clickbait. Yeah, it's the first time someone's refused to do medicals, but he literally said, I'm going to do medicals with all the teams that have meetings with me. He just doesn't want to do it for all 32. Now, it's a good point. Rick Spielman brought this up, that, when teams are going to potentially get you down the line, they do go back and revisit those medicals. I got to admit, you could also just reevaluate him medically, is what it is. But, Caleb Williams isn't a spectacular talent. He just is a little bit, if I'm going to be honest, he seems a little camera shy. Just is not a very good public speaker. And people are very perceptive to how people are in front of a camera, in front of a microphone. I can guarantee you, if you're going to try to criticize Caleb Williams for how he speaks in front of a camera, in front of a mic, I don't know how you could look at yourself in the mirror and imagine how you would perform if every single word was going to be parsed by millions of people who are watching your every single move. I think that if we have enough struggles presenting a normal presentation in front of a class, I think we could project how it would be talking in front of the world. So Caleb Williams, I still have full faith in him. Do not overthink it. At pick 2, the Washington Commanders are on the board. There is a rumor right now, of course, again, smokescreen season, but essentially the rumor is there is Drake May is the number 1 QB on Cliff Kingsbury's board. I don't know how true that is, but I do think that Drake is going to be one of those guys who ends up going at number 2. I don't know if it's to the Commanders or to a team that's going to get overly aggressive, but Drake May's ceiling is ridiculously high. And so I also follow realism. My mock drafts are a blend of realism as well as my board to give you an honest opinion from my end, but also still give you something relatively accurate. I'll be able to do my own versions of mock drafts as time goes on. So I'm not really too concerned about that. But I do think Drake May ends up being the number 2 pick. Number 3 overall, the Patriots are sitting here in, I'm actually going to be reevaluating the wide receivers. I have 2 new categories that I have, and it actually, we could actually thank Troy Franklin for this one. But I have a red flag category where essentially I can purposely drop a score if I see something like where, statistically it's like, okay, well, he's still a really good route runner, but if there's something I just don't like almost like an anti-it factor, I could factor that into the score. With him in that gauntlet drill, that's the case. That's not going to be the purpose of this pick right here. It's obviously not for this, but I also now have an it factor. So I do have players where they really are They really have a specialty to them. And Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, those two guys definitely do. I think the quarterbacks will be there in round 2 for us. Without trades, it's just pretty much bound to happen that there's going to be somebody there. So I think we're still going to be able to upgrade QB, and Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be the best bet. He is just barely my wide receiver 1, but he's a fantastic wide receiver. Refuses to talk to media. No disrespect to the media members themselves, or maybe full disrespect. I don't care. The media is very, very irritating. I don't blame Marvin for not wanting to talk to them. I wouldn't want to talk to them. I don't like talking to very many media members. It is what it is. That's why I like talking to personnel, because they're just there talking about football and not trying to create a story and get clicks. I'm on one today. Trust me. I'm in my grouchy mood today, so we get to have a lot of very hot takes. At pick number 4 for the Arizona Cardinals, Malik Neighbors is a very, very enticing option for me. It very well might happen, but this class has shown to have a lot of very talented players. I have Xavier Worthy as my wide receiver 10, and I've boosted him up a lot. All these receivers are doing phenomenally well. So, that's what, don't look at the fact that Xavier is wide receiver 10. Look at the fact that there are 9 wide receivers that are as good, if not better, than Xavier Worthy, which is mind-boggling because Xavier's a damn good wide receiver. So, I think if you want to go after a wide receiver, there's still some very good options on day 2, and I think that we need to factor in a new riser to the equation. Someone who tested out even his 3-cone ridiculously well. He tested out better than Olu Fashanu did. That's Joe Alt. And I think that, especially since you're trying to surround Kyler with a lot of good talent, granted, a 6'9" tackle does seem a little bit annoying for pretty much a sub-6-foot quarterback, but you're not going to be getting a 6'3" tackle anytime soon. The difference between a 6'8" and a 6'9" tackle is essentially, what makes a tackle not nice, and that's 1 inch. So inches matter. And Joe Alt, he's going to make the most of it. He is an absolute freak show. The fact that he's tested out so damn well, athleticism was not something that was the main focal point of evaluation for him. He has just been on another level. I could have went Tali Fuaga, but I think Joe Alt, with the resume that he has, and then you combine that with an improved athleticism over the tape, which means he's worked on it in the offseason, shows that great work ethic, and then also a proven track record. And honestly, because he didn't lose a ton of weight or anything, he still might have that same fortitude with a new level of athleticism, and that's what's exciting. At pick number 5 for the Chargers, again, we do not have trades here. I would definitely consider Malik Neighbors. I just feel like the Chargers are a team, especially it depends on the cap situation, what they're going to be doing to make moves. Could easily factor in Malik Neighbors here. It's a very easy option to go after, but I just don't feel like Harbaugh is the type of guy to go after wide receiver at 5. This is a new regime. New regimes are relatively, unless they're going after a QB, they're very, very safe with that first pick. And a really great option, because I know Trey Pipkins has 1 more year left before being able to be released, but he's not good enough to be a starter, and he's not a great run blocker. Tali Fuaga is. Now, in a realistic world where you can trade back, I know this pick's for sale. I think a team that might be looking for Malik Neighbors, might be looking for Jaden Daniels, would absolutely adore this. But Tali Fuaga is going to be the pick because, again, we only had 1 trade, and that's Justin Fields. Because that just feels like the thing to do when you draft a brand new quarterback and you're going to get a second from your QB. At pick 6 for the Giants, Jaden Daniels is still sitting here. Very hard to say no to JD. Malik Neighbors also sitting here, and it's just very difficult to choose between phenomenal players. Technically could even look at the tackle class, but I'm not going to do that. I don't think that's a very realistic thing to do. We do need to see the corners going off the board sooner than later, but receiver also is very highly valued. This team hasn't had a true wide receiver 1 in a very long time. Malik Neighbors is in a tier of his own with Marvin Harrison Jr. and A.D. Mitchell right behind. So I'm actually going to go Malik Neighbors because you are getting that blue chip player. At pick 7 for the Titans, Rome Odunze is actually the guy who I'm really intrigued with here. Offensive tackle, we've already taken the top 2 guys. Olu Fashanu certainly is in the consideration, but you could potentially get Kingsley or Tyler Guyton down the board. And I remember they were talking about it in a couple press conferences. They want a guy who will be putting points on the board. Rome Odunze, due to his fluidity and obviously in crazy work ethic, you're going to be getting him to replace D-Hop, and you're going to be able to put him anywhere on the field in the short run. So this is going to be one of those sneaky picks, but Rome Odunze will be the choice. And here at pick number 8, we have the Atlanta Falcons. So we still got Jaden Daniels on the board. Here's my one issue. Atlanta's pursuing someone to be an impact right away. That most likely is going to be Kirk Cousins. Could be Justin Fields, but the rumors are starting to lean really heavily towards Kirk Cousins, who wants 2 to 3 years fully guaranteed. Now, the question is, do you go JJ in that situation and let him sit and develop? Or is Raheem Morris going to say, I'm ready to win now, and I'm going to go and get my guy? So there's 4 options for this pick, because I don't think Jaden Daniels would be the quarterback that they would take if they bring Kirk Cousins on. If they bring Kirk on, they're going to be going either quarterback or defensive player. And that's Quinion Mitchell, Terrion Arnold, or Dallas Turner. Right now, Jeff Okudah is scheduled to make about $14 million a year. That's not worth paying. I love him with all my heart. Like, Jeff Okudah, power to you, bro. But, when you have cerebral talents like Terrion Arnold and Quinion Mitchell on the board, like, it's very hard to say, I'd rather pay $15 million a year for someone who is not as good when you can just get somebody who is extremely talented on a 5-year deal. Dallas Turner is phenomenal. This team definitely needs some edge rush help. Not a single guy over 6.5 sacks last year. Of course, I trust Raheem Morris to snipe dudes down the board. And in round number 2, you might be able to get Chop Robinson. Again, there's only 32 players to go in the first round. There's like 50 guys that are being said as a guaranteed first round player. I can guarantee you there's going to be some dudes there in round 2. Jonah Ellis as well. Love him to death. Marshawn Nealand. There's going to be dudes at pick 43 for you. So, I think edge rusher, as much as I love Dallas Turner, does not need to be the pick. And, again, Terrion Arnold, phenomenal. Love him to death. Quinion Mitchell, love him to death as well. I think that we're going to see a very unique situation here where the quarterbacks, because of no trades, are going to fall. And I just don't see this team. The NFL values corners so heavily. They value wide receivers so heavily. They value QB as well. But I think it's a little bit of smokescreen. I honestly do. I think the JJ thing is a little bit of a smokescreen. I love Jaden Daniels. It's just you're not going to do that when you bring Kirk on. So remember, they do have Kirk in this situation. I'm going to go Terrion Arnold. It's a bit of a stretch because everyone and their mom and that dog that they have, their grandma's dog is even saying Dallas Turner is the choice for the Falcons. But when you get to have someone who is so brilliantly smart and has so much talent, Terrion Arnold, he ran a 4.5 flat, but you know what? The dude's fluid as all get out. He has no wasted movement, and he's super duper smart. That is worth keeping on your team as a corner too. Him, Clark Phillips, AJ Terrell, and then you also end up having Jesse Bates in that secondary. That is how you build a championship level team. If you're going to ring chase, which I think this team's ready for a ring chase or, a ring run, that's what you need to do. Pass rush will help as well, but you can get that as well in the second round or in free agency. But corners, I think this is a really, really good opportunity to get someone who should be a top 3 pick. Pick number 9 for the Chicago Bears. I always wish I could trade out here because, again, you got the QBs on the board, but that is not the case. Dallas Turner is here. Do not overthink it. So, yes, we are seeing the QBs slip a little bit, but Dallas Turner, 4.47 40, unbelievable fluidity. This guy has all the talent in the world, physical as well as mental. And it's on the field and production as well. Big fan of Dallas Turner. I think he needs a mentor as well for a little bit. Still not fully polished, which, given his production, is still incredible. It shows how much more he could be. But Montez Sweat is exactly the guy who I'd want paired up with Dallas Turner. At pick 10 for the New York Jets, again, the QBs are on the board. You could try to get your future at quarterback in JJ McCarthy because, hey, Aaron Rodgers doesn't have that much more time left. We'll see what happens. But I think this team, based on the fact you can get Michael Owenu for about $11 million a year, you can end up getting Tyron Smith for about 10 mil a year. Like, this is a team that could easily pivot. You can get Jonah Williams for 11 million a year as well. This is according to SpotTrack.com, not my own estimates, because I'm not an estimator. I'm not an elite estimator. I'll put it that way. But this is a team that could easily flip around their fortunes in terms of their offensive line. One thing they haven't done very well is find an elite wide receiver too. And Brian Thomas is coming off a unbelievable combine. This guy is just a freak show, 6'3", 209 pounds, 4'3", 440, crazy vert. I mean, this guy's ridiculous. And he has the it factor. Brian Thomas and Troy Franklin have both been a major reason why I ended up having the it factor as well as the red flag factor in my new grading scale. I have A.D. Mitchell above Brian Thomas, but Brian Thomas is built to complement Garrett Wilson better, and I just don't see the Jets being aggressive enough in free agency to get a genuinely good receiving target. I think they'd be a little bit better at reacquiring some good offensive linemen. So at pick number 11, the Vikings have their pick. Yes, it sounds crazy that Jaden Daniels could be here, but we also said the same thing about Will Levis. I mean, there was a random spike in the odds he'd be number 1 overall on the board. Like, thinking about it, maybe the Giants could have went after him, but, you know, if you really want a QB, you can wait for that in round number 2 when we could potentially even get a star quarterback there. So I think the easy option here is Jaden Daniels. So you want someone who's going to be a day 1 impact on your team. This is going to be your guy. JJ McCarthy might end up being the actual selection over Jaden Daniels, but you need someone to impact you day 1. And I know Jaden Daniels can hit a target like Jordan Addison on a dot, and they're very aggressive for a QB. Sometimes you can just sit and wait. Jaden also has a slender frame, so it's not necessarily like you've seen that he could get rattled quite a bit. It could actually be that he slips to the spot, and this is worth taking at that point. The Broncos are also going to be looking for either a corner 2, an edge 2, or edge 1, and then a QB. They're not in a very good position future-wise to draft a QB. So I do think this is a prime opportunity to get someone who has good mobility, good arm power. Like, this is a team that will be rebuilding, and I think they're very understanding and cognizant of that. So JJ McCarthy will be the choice there at pick number 12, stealing him right there from the Raiders. Raiders, however, you just got to make some lemonade out of these lemons, man. You got to do what you got to do. You got Quinion Mitchell and Olu Fashanu here, and Byron Murphy. You have a good group of guys. Now, what you want to do is just have someone who will be an elite talent on your squad for a very long period of time. Quinion Mitchell is exactly that. 4.3, 340, so you already know he has that. Unbelievable ball skills. I do wish that he didn't have to catch up to the receiver as much. There's a lot of his tape where the quarterback throws a receiver that does have separation and Quinion closes it. Like, I don't think that's fully intentional 100% of the time. If it is, that's a great thing. I just am a little bit more on the careful side when it comes to that. But I think AP will absolutely adore having an elite tier corner talent there in Quinion Mitchell. Ennis Rakestraw still is above him on my board solely because I'm waiting on his pro day. Based on the combine performances, which, yes, it shouldn't shift your board that much, but Ennis was much lighter than I expected. He ran much worse than I expected. When there's a gap in the overall testing, there is a reason for concern. But Quinion right now is corner 3 solely because I am a TBD on my corner 2. Pick 14 for the New Orleans Saints. Olu Fashanu's here. I don't think they ever expected that, but, he is. Byron Murphy as well. Byron Murphy feels a little bit more like a Saints pick, but I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to pray that they do the right thing. I don't know if they're ready to give up on Trevor Penning just yet, but I'm going to force their hand. Olu Fashanu will be the pick for the Saints. At pick 15 for the Indianapolis Colts, there's a lot of good choices here. One of them being A.D. Mitchell. I really do like A.D. Mitchell on this squad. I know I actually had some residents Colts fans back when he was around 2 target that loved him to the Colts as well as to the Titans. I have a lot of AFC South support for A.D. Mitchell in here. So you could even go Byron Murphy. I'm not going to do that. But you look at this team, they had 4 dudes over 7 sacks last year, but they still do not have a true edge 1. You're coming up on that 5th-year contract extension as well for Kwity Paye. And do you need to do that? I think you should, but at the same time, you don't really have an alpha anymore on that defensive front. And, Brock Bowers is here though. I don't think you can pass on Brock, but I got to put out, like, there's a strong inclination that I would go Jared Verse. But Brock Bowers will be the selection. You got to help out Anthony Richardson. You do have to consider Jared Verse or AD Mitchell, though. At pick 16 for the Seahawks, Jared Verse and Byron Murphy are both here. Same thing with Jackson Powers Johnson, Leatu Latu. Like, it's very difficult to choose between these players for the Seahawks. It's a good problem to have. Now, I think they retain Leonard Williams, reducing their need to go after Byron Murphy. I still think it's a great move. But Byron Murphy being about 6 foot, a little bit shorter on the arms, or not even like really the arm length's not an issue. He's like about sub 300, which is, again, kind of a concern. While you have Jared Verse, who's about 255 and has a similar athletic profile to Myles Garrett in terms of the guys who weigh certain amounts, run certain amounts, and then are still able to bench, 33 reps. Like, I feel like that's a very coveted ability. I know there's Uchenna Nwosu as well that I got to give a shout out on this team, but this does feel like a move for the future with Jared Verse. His talent is ridiculous. Like, he's somebody who I brought him back into my top 10 because of the fact that he had such a damn good combine and showed that he was healthy and 100%. And when he's healthy and 100%, it's very hard to stop this guy. I think that he belongs in a Seahawks uniform as well. That's one of my dream fits for him. At pick 17 for the Jacksonville Jaguars, they're not going to be keeping AD Mitchell. They're not going to be keeping their star wide receiver, Calvin Ridley, because this is a damn good wide receiver draft. I don't know who's going to be there at pick 48, but this team does need a number one wide receiver, and one that just ran 4.34 at 6'2", 205 pounds is A.D. Mitchell. Jumped out of the ballpark as well. Great hands. I think this would be incredible unless they end up bringing T. Higgins to the squad, which is potentially likely. At pick 18, speaking of T. Higgins, we have the Cincinnati Bengals, who could be a great target for A.D. Mitchell as well. I'm going to actually have a Cincinnati Bengals deep dive coming out this week. Actually, I should call it Ultimate Draft Guide. It's what it is. It's an Ultimate Draft Guide. But I think the Bengals could be smart by re-signing Jonah because he is about $11 million a year, even though your cap situation, not 2.0. It's either going to be Latham or Mims, or we can go Byron Murphy here. I do think the receiving core needs help, but right now we just depleted what's left of that first tier, or that group of guys who you think should be here. So for me, I think I'm going to go after Byron Murphy the second. DJ Reader's up for a contract. That's not really a big issue for me. I think you should re-sign him. He's about $15 million a year. Big part of this team as well. But also, why am I tripping up on the other D tackle? BJ Hill. He's a cap casualty potentially. You can cut his ass and end up freeing, was it like $6 or $7 million? And then bring Byron Murphy on, who has a similar enough frame. He's about 10 or 15 pounds lighter, but has that same level of explosiveness. And then you get DJ Reader and Byron Murphy on that squad, which would be a very, very nasty duo. At pick 19 for the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams are in a particular situation. We do have some good quarterbacks still on the board for them, but I do think this is a team that wants to, take someone maybe who hasn't had a lot of development or proper development like Zach Wilson and give him one more shot. That's just what the Rams do under McVay. Offensive line certainly in the equation, but for some reason I can't get past Leatu Latu getting past this team. Just keeping him in Los Angeles makes so much sense, and he's a great complement there for Byron Young. So you're going to be able to have a nice 1-2 punch there at that 255, 260 frame. Pick number 20, Pittsburgh Steelers. We are going to be going Amarius Mims here. J.C. Latham certainly is in the realm of possibility. Again, I'm saying for the Bengals to go and pay $11 million and end up freeing the money by being able to cut BJ Hill. I'm going to go Amarius Mims here. It's the right thing to do. Even though he's had potential injury concerns, the guy's an absolute mammoth of a being. Like, just look at the statistics: 340 pounds, 6'8", 11.5-inch hands, like just 507 40. It's worth taking a shot on him, just trying to make sure he stays healthy. At pick 21 for the Miami Dolphins, you got Jackson Powers Johnson here, but you also actually have J.C. Latham and Troy Fautanu. I think what's amazing is that Troy Fautanu is going to be the future at left tackle for this team. By the way, that's where we're going. I could, of course, go wide receiver as well, but I'm going to go Troy here, and I'll explain actually after I take it. Troy is going to be that future left tackle when Terran Armstead is gone, whether that's this year or next. If it's this year, awesome. If it's next year, you have an elite tier offensive guard who will be polished by the time he is a pure tackle. At pick 22, we got the Philadelphia Eagles. Jason Kelce retired today. Obviously, it's great to see that he retired as an Eagle first off, but also it kind of is time. It's time. But this team does have a contingency plan. I don't know why people think they need to go Jackson Powers Johnson. You have Tyler Steen at right guard. You'll have Landon Dickerson at left, and then you have Cam Jurgens at center. Why do you need to draft another one? There's not even a contingency plan in place. You don't need, it's already executed. You don't need to create one. So there's no need for essentially you to get a contingency plan. JC Latham's very intriguing for me at this spot, but I think Lane's going to be around for a minimum of 2 more years, and this is ring chasing time. I think that the Eagles are trying to do everything in their power to get as much as they can out of their roster without having, with cutting Kevin Byard. You certainly limit your roster day one. I don't know what they're going to do in free agency, whether they bring on a Justin Simmons, for example, but Cooper DeJean was, I believe, their first top 30 visit scheduled. And he's not the electric firecracker that you'd want. You want Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, right? Someone who's going to blow up somebody and just, that doesn't sound right, but someone who's going to be able to make a big play and end up, getting the momentum back for the team. Cooper DeJean, really soft-spoken, not really, kind of bland, so to speak. Vanilla, should I say, for the white guy. But he's someone who can play in the slot. He can play on the boundary, and he can play safety. I think his best role is safety in the short run. Sidney comes back full health. He can move into the slot and challenge Avonte Maddox, or even play on the boundary. That's what I love about him. He's just a guy you can really, really trust. And again, it's not like they don't show any interest. He's the first guy they scheduled a freaking top 30 visit with. Now, I do think you could go after Edgerrin Cooper here in round 1. It hasn't been done in a very, very long time. But at the same time, Howie hasn't drafted a corner or safety in the first round in a long, long time. I don't think the edge rushers are remotely talented enough at this moment. So I'm actually going to pull one here. I'm going to do something a little sneaky. We're going to go Cooper DeJean out of Iowa to play that safety role and slot and boundary. Does that sound like it might be too much to ask for? Maybe. But the fact is, he can play all 3 of those positions. And yes, he can. Don't try to say he can't. He can. And he can play well at all of them. And the thing is, this team will have different games where they need different roles. And that's what Cooper DeJean's going to do until he finds his solidified long-term role. Because Slay and Bradbury probably won't be on the team after next year. Bradbury should get, I don't know if Bradbury's even going to be on the team this year. But, you're going to be getting a lot more availability for a bigger role after this year. So having someone who can play what you need versus what you want, it's a nice combo right there. Pick 23 for the Houston Texans. Man, JC Latham slipping a little bit, but he also didn't test, and Tyler Guyton tested a little bit underwhelmingly. This is a team where I totally think if A.D. Mitchell's here, that's the guy that they take. Keon Coleman ran a 4.61. People are going to laugh at that, and I think it's a little bit stock down. I found it kind of hard to believe that he would be ending up remaining in the first. That being said, I still have faith for him potentially going in the first because he did a great job on the gauntlet drill. So that's actually a big deal. I think this team is a front runner for Christian Wilkins. I think that's going to be one of your best moves that you can make as a franchise is to bring him on. That being said, you still do need defensive interior help. So you could also go and recruit a Jerzon Johnny Newton. This is one of those spots where I think in reality, the Texans are going to move back. Could be the spot where the first linebacker is taken off the board from a former linebacker, right? So I don't think that right now this is the best area to do this. I think they end up actually trading back, but they're going to get Jerzon Newton. I think getting Christian Wilkins, Jerzon Newton is a great way to shore up those 2 interior defensive line spots. I think Jerzon Newton will be a trade back option, though. It's just, this is not a good spot for the Texans to be, or it's a great spot, and they can just trade back and get some good stuff. Steven Nelson is projected to return to the team as well. At pick number 24 for the Dallas Cowboys, The biggest question that you have to ask is, are you moving Tyler Smith to tackle? He was drafted as a tackle. He was a former left tackle there at Tulsa. And I think he's going to be a Pro Bowl level left tackle or an all pro level guard. I don't know which one I'm more comfortable with, because I could go JC Latham right here and play him instantly at left tackle and see what happens. Or play JC at guard and let Tyler be the tackle. Or I can get the best center in the draft and then figure out a guard spot or a tackle spot depending on who's available down the line. Like a Cooper Beebe, for example, if he's there in round number 3, let's just say, that might be great to pair up with Tyler Smith, who's moved to tackle. Again, you do have a natural left tackle already on your team. I think Jackson Powers Johnson has Travis Frederick written all over him, and that's something Jerry Jones is going to want to bring back to Dallas. Can play guard as well in case you do like what you have at center. At pick number 25 for the Green Bay Packers, again, we're seeing JC Latham slip a little bit. Honestly, there might be an anti-Bama stigma for offensive tackles because, they haven't had a very good track record. But let's continue on anyways. Obviously, who I'd love to take here. It's Cooper DeJean, and he's not here. I think Graham Barton's one of those more realistic picks. And Green Bay is a big trade-up candidate for me. Like, I think they're right on the money for being able to move up and select an elite tier defensive interior, for example. Well, not defensive tier, but an elite tier defender like a Quinion Mitchell. This team has multiple second-round picks, not many issues. Like, if Quinion Mitchell somehow slips to 14, I could totally see a team like the Saints, who are a little bit bereft of capital, being willing to say, hey, we can trade down with you. Let's talk. And then boom, they move up and select their guy. So I do think the Packers should be in the market for an offensive tackle potentially. But Rasheed Walker has a couple years left. He's performed pretty valiantly. Bakhtiari still has a year left. And then you also have Zach Tom there. So you'd be getting someone to play interior, and Graham Barton could do that at a very high level. You could also go for an interior offensive lineman elsewhere. And I think that's the smarter move. Kool-Aid McKinstry won't go in the first round. The fact is he didn't test. And he's known to be slower than Terrion Arnold, who ran a 4.5. So people think he could be a safety. Actually, this might be the one team I do believe that they could be willing to take Kool-Aid, even if he is a safety. We'll take Kool-Aid because, again, no trades, but I think this is a great trade back spot. Even though they have great draft capital, I still think it's a good trade back spot. Pick 26 for the Buccaneers. At this point, I might even go JC Latham. Even though Gadecki's done a good job at offensive tackle, I'm still willing to go after JC Latham at this point because the value is just too damn good. But Graham Barton does kind of feel more in line with what the Buccaneers are going to be looking at for their interior offensive line needs, and he does fit a bit better in my opinion. We just saw Mike Evans return to the team. Awesome. I think that means Baker's going to stay. I don't think he'd return to the team if he didn't believe Baker was going to stay. So the quarterback situation is going to be checked off for this video specifically. I will be actually going Graham Barton here to be that elite interior offensive lineman for him. At pick 27 for the Cardinals, I'm going to get so much shit for this because JC Latham fell. Did not expect JC to fall, to be completely transparent, but he did. He ended up slipping a little bit, and that's okay. I would debate taking him, but that's just not going to happen. With that being said, I do think defensive interior still is on the board for this team. Tavondre Sweat could be a mammoth for the squad. Chris Jenkins had a great combine as well. I do think wide receivers still should be in the market for this team. They are looking for a number 1, but corner should be as well. And I think corner is well deserving. Nate Wiggins, when healthy, he probably will be able to be up to 180 in the NFL. And he has obviously 4.2 speed and great field awareness. He is built to be one of those Gannon guys. So I think he will be a good selection here. At pick 28 for the Buffalo Bills, JC Latham's on the board. We do love that, don't we? But this is a team that should be looking for a wide receiver. And I do love Ladd McConkey, but I feel like he doesn't fit the role that I necessarily want for him. Xavier Worthy is here too. I'd rather go Ladd McConkey over Xavier Worthy, though. if I am going to go after that wide receiver 2 route. I still think Keon Coleman's going to be valued highly based on his gauntlet drill. Like, just it's very difficult to run and maintain that speed. He has great play speed. Ladd McConkey, though, he is very dynamic. He is a little bit more built to be one of those guys who gets open, but you have the Khalil Shakirs. I think Keon Coleman's the guy who's going to be drafted here. It sounds crazy because he ran that 4.6 range, but he was the fastest in the gauntlet drill, which means pure confidence and play speed. It's the same drill that Puka Nacua did well in, and the NFL is all about trends, and that is a big trendsetter. All right, so at pick 29, we got the Detroit Lions. Detroit, defensive interior, edge rusher, like those are corner. Ennis Rakestraw is actually right up your alley too. This guy loves to blow plays up, and I love that mentality. Another player I really want to mention here is Renardo Green. That's a big player I could totally see happening. Cam Hart, round 2, could totally see that as well. And then my dark horse pick for him in the first is Marshawn Kneeland, who did a phenomenal job. But I think this team is a bit more desperate for corner. Ennis Rakestraw will be my choice. The Baltimore Ravens actually do need to get some upgrades on the offensive line. A little too unreliable there with Ronnie Stanley as years have progressed. So we're going to actually take best player available because that's exactly what the Ravens do every single year. The Niners are going to take advantage of the fact that Tyler Guyton fell into their lap. You know, Renardo Green would be another choice for me, but I think Tyler Guyton is just a little bit more BPA. At pick 32, we got the Kansas City Chiefs. Wide receiver is going to be their best move. Honestly, Ladd McConkey is going to be the dude, or Xavier Worthy. How can I let the guy who just ran a 4.21 get out of the first round? How could I do it? Xavier Worthy is going to be the pick. He obviously broke the record, 4.21 on the 40-yard dash. That doesn't mean that you're going to be incredible, but it does show up on tape. I think he needs to play a little bit more consistently with that speed because I didn't see it on a consistent basis. But this is a team that has the luxury of being able to add him to the squad, essentially be that Mecole Hardman replacement. At pick 33 for the Carolina Panthers, a lot of good players continue to fall because there's a lot of good players. That's the NFL for you. That's NFL draft. This is a good class. Wide receiver and edge rusher are going to be the ways that I would be going. Edge rusher, you do have a good amount of options. A really good amount of options here. You got Chop, you got Darius, you got Jonah, like you got Marshawn Kneeland as well. But I think you got to help out Bryce. And Jermaine Burton, not going to be someone who I'd ever target within the first 3 rounds because I think there's some big motor issues there. But the talent is certainly there. Ladd McConkey, though, people comp him to Antonio Brown. I'm not there, and I love Ladd McConkey. Got to meet him there in Mobile. Good dude. But I do think he is superior to the majority of talents on the board. I think Johnny Wilson might get drafted way higher than expected, but I'm not going to take him above Ladd McConkey because, Ladd's going to essentially be your Adam Thielen replacement in the long run. He does have 6-foot height, and he's just about 190. That is good enough to try to put him on the boundary. Some people say Garrett Wilson. I think Garrett Wilson was a little bit different, a little bit better, but I really do like Ladd McConkey. At round 2, pick 33, it's hard to get much better value. At pick 34 for the Patriots, wow, didn't I say we'd get a quarterback here? We're going to be getting a quarterback here. So it's Bo Nix or Michael Penix. The choice is yours. Whatever the next QB needy team is, I'd be giving that quarterback to them. Penix is obviously a phenomenal quarterback. Same thing with Bo Nix. It really depends on what flavor of ice cream you want. I think Bo Nix is a little bit more of a guy of my speed, but Michael Penix, you cannot complain at all for how damn good he is. So I'm going to go Bo Nix, though. Bo Nix will be the QB taken. I know it's going to piss off some people, but again, if you're really that butthurt, just imagine I took Michael Penix there. The next team that is QB needy, like desperate for a QB, will be going after one of the other QBs. At pick 35 for the Arizona Cardinals, we have gotten Nate Wiggins as well as Joe Alt. Wide receiver still technically available, but I am not going to be going that route. That's not the right way for me. I'm going to actually go potentially after defensive interior with Chris Jenkins or Tavondre Sweat. Now, the question is, do you think Tavondre will be drafted this highly? I don't know. But I do think this team is kind of desperate for someone to plug the middle. And I know Gannon is so comfortable with his Jordan Davis at this point that I want to get him his Jordan Davis. And I think it's easier to snipe a Chris Jenkins down the board, even though I love Chris Jenkins. It's easier to snipe a physical profile like Chris down the board than Tavondre. The questions will be risen. Why are you not going Braden Fiske? There is a report out right now that said when people looked at the combine medicals, there were two, in quote, ugly reports. And it was Peyton Wilson and it was Braden Fiske. I don't know if that's true, but I didn't see enough tape of Braden Fiske being worth a first round pick in order to justify me ignoring potential major medical red flags. So I got to bring that up. Pick 36 for the Commanders. We've already gone our quarterback in Drake May. Kingsley Suamataia is going to be the pick. I don't think I need to overcomplicate that too much. He didn't light up the combine the way maybe we were hoping he would, but he still is a very talented, very athletic offensive lineman. At pick 37 for the Los Angeles Chargers, we end up going Tali Fuaga in round number 1. Could end up going after some of the receivers here, but I do think this is that one random team that will kick off the linebacker flurry with Junior Colson out of Michigan. You're going to pair him back up with his defensive coordinator and head coach from college. Junior Colson was the leader of that defense, as well as Michael Barrett, who they could probably snipe in round 6 or 7. Pick 38 for the Titans. They ended up passing on offensive linemen in the first round to go after Rome, the Sloan Odunze. And, you have Jordan Morgan here, who had a very solid combine. Patrick Paul, who had a really solid combine. Even Karan Ahmed Jaje, he didn't have a solid combine because he didn't test, but statistically speaking, he's great. Same thing with Christian Jones. This is also a team that could potentially bring in Mekhi Becton. If I'm not mistaken, I think is it his coach there? His coach is on one of these teams, former position coach from Louisville. It might be this team. It might be one of the other ones that he's rumored to. But regardless, this team definitely will be looking for offensive line. Jordan Morgan at this point is great value. Even if you have to kick him to guard eventually, which I don't know if you will, but I don't think so. You're going to be getting a quality O-lineman. At pick 39 for the New York Giants, Michael Penix is here. This might be worth it. In the first round, you ended up targeting wide receiver in Malik Neighbors. Of course, we could have ended up actually going Jaden Daniels, but we decided to go after more of a receiving threat. Michael Penix will require a little bit of time to have his own offense adjusted into this. Daniel Jones is just too expensive to get rid of at the moment. But Michael Penix has that cannon upside to make this team Super Bowl viable. And if you build the proper team around him, I think it's tough to say because you're not going to sit Daniel Jones or him. I feel like this is a team that actually might be going more for the trade Daniel Jones plus picks for maybe another quarterback free agent acquisition in the future. The way the board fell, I could easily go Michael Penix, but deep down, I want to take a different route because I always go QB at pick 39. And, maybe Daniel Jones could do something. Maybe. Interior offensive line-wise, we actually had some big risers. Cooper Beebe deserves a lot of respect. I don't think he gets enough respect as it is. Christian Haynes, Zach Frazier. Zach Frazier didn't do too great at the combine, in my opinion. Christian Haynes was a little bit underwhelming compared to what I was hoping. I thought he was going to be top in everything. Cooper Beebe tested out like a freak. And this is someone who could be a cornerstone offensive lineman for a long, long time. So I'm going to be going after Cooper Beebe. At pick number 40 for the Washington Commanders, we have gone after Kingsley Suamataia as well as Drake May. Now, I could, again, go after another offensive tackle here, Patrick Paul kicking right tackle, but I would be willing to wait for Christian Jones if possible. Maybe I'll be taking Christian Jones in this round, though. Looking at the other choices, you need to go edge rusher. You do. Chop Robinson's here. He needs a lot of development, but this is a team that I think can be patient in that regard. And the value is just proper to be able to take him. A lot of people are like, oh my God, why aren't you taking him in the first? This is criminal. Dude, everybody knew, everybody who actually watched Chop Robinson knew exactly what he was going to test. He's an explosive freak. The fact is, I probably should have taken Marshawn Kneeland over him. But Chop might have a little bit more hype. So he probably will be taken before. Chop Robinson is known for his athleticism. So I don't know why it's a shocker that he's athletic. The The on-field product is the issue because he's still developing so much, but still 21% pass rush win rate is respectable. Just have to bring up the fact that, he's not winning at an NFL level. The wins he gets are not necessarily translatable the same way some other ones are. At pick 41, we got the Green Bay Packers back. They went Kool-Aid McKinstry in round number 1. I wish there was another tackle that would be kicking to interior offensive line because that's a very Packers thing to do. I do think this is a round where you will see the first running back come off the board. And I know that's not something y'all want to hear, but kind of is the truth. We already got Kool-Aid McKinstry to play wherever we need him to play. I think this is where we take the first running back. Again, I know it sounds a little bit early, but Aaron Jones I think Aaron Jones is a potential cap casualty as well. You could totally cut his ass. And then also A.J. Dillon up for a contract. You need a running back. And Trey Benson tested 4.29, or 4.39, excuse me. And he's just been extremely dynamic, great explosiveness. Isaac Guerrero, people are going to always go after him, but just don't look exclusively at the numbers. Like, it's always a good guide to get you excited for players, but when the talent matches the statistics, that's where you can get really excited. And I think Trey Benson will end up being that guy who gets selected first. Pick number 42, also another team that I would guess Trey Benson could go to, is the Minnesota Vikings. And this is actually where I'm going to take Marshawn Kneeland. They need an extra outside linebacker, and he's 267, but had a better shuttle than Chop Robinson, a better 3-cone by a long shot than Jared Verse. This is going to be one of those dudes. Where is he? He's number 34 on my overall board. This team needs help in that edge rushing crew, and he is going to bring it. At pick 43, also Western Michigan, super close to where the Vikings are there in Minnesota. Pick 43, the Falcons are back on the board. Ended up going for Terrion Arnold in round number 1. Again, we are projecting that they get a quarterback in Kirk Cousins. But look at all the options at edge rusher for him. Crazy how they're here, right? You have some really, really good choices for you. And I honestly think you should be looking at wide receiver. You really should. Like, you got Xavier Legette, Johnny Wilson, Brendan Rice, Ricky Pearsall. Like, I totally think that wide receiver is the smarter move, technically, for Atlanta. Because you still have some very good edge rushers there. And round 3 very well might be even more fruitful. But I will go Jonah Ellis. He increased his weight, still maintained really solid athleticism. And for me, I have his comp as mini Dallas Turner. He had 33-inch arms, which is pretty damn awesome. He is still mini Dallas Turner because Dallas had over 34. But Jonah Ellis, well worth the selection. At pick 44 for the Vegas Raiders. I promise you I did not force this, but Michael Penix is here. Big Penix energy. Let's go. This team needs it. I mean, this is ideal for him. You end up going in the first round and drafting Quinion Mitchell, and then you end up getting Michael Penix here. Now, his age and potential injury past could be a big issue. Could be a big issue for some teams. This is not out of the realm of possibility. Quarterbacks fall every year out of the first. It just shocks us all, but that's okay. At pick 45, the Saints are back on the board, and I think that they're going to be looking for defensive line. They went after tackle with their first pick, and I think Chris Jenkins had a great combine and is a really good complement to your first-round pick from last year in Brian Breezy. Pick 46, we got the Indianapolis Colts, who ended up targeting Brock Bowers in round number 1. He could actually get there because he didn't test. It's a bit of a stretch. It's the reason why he did it. It's very hard to see Edgerrin Cooper slip this far, but he is a little bit more role-specific at 230. So I do think that he could actually be slipping a little bit. And I'm going to crush all my Eagles fans, by the way. I just know it. I do apologize in advance. But we already got a receiving weapon. I'm going to be going after a defensive weapon here. And that defensive weapon is Renardo Green. He's going to be a little bit more of that physical profile. Actually, Cam Hart fits this team. When you look at their drafting philosophy, they go after guys who have really good size and really good physical traits. And Cam Hart is very aggressive, 6'3", 200 pounds. This is literally a Colts corner in the second round. So you also have him right down the street there in Notre Dame. I love it. I love that. That's a new favorite for me. So you get Brock Bowers and Cam Hart. Sounds like a reach. Not really is a reach. Pick number 47. So New York, we've already gone after Cooper Beebe as well as Malik Neighbors. Sometimes you just got to piss off the Eagles. We're going to Edgerrin Cooper to play boundary edge for us slash linebacker. Linebacker has yet to be fully filled for this team for a long time, but more importantly, this team needs an edge number 2. Azeez Ojulari just not reliable enough, and Edgerrin Cooper could play both of those roles very, very well. Honestly, if I were able to redo this draft, I would probably take Edgerrin Cooper at 39 and then take Cooper Beebe here at 47. Pick 48 for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Ended up taking a wide receiver and A.D. Mitchell in round number 1. It's pretty damn fun. I do think this team loves their freaky edge rushers. There's not really too many freaky edge rushers left. Darius Robinson ran the 4.9s. Doesn't really fit with what the Jacksonville Jaguars are looking for. Braylon Trice shed 30 pounds and still was unathletic. Not unathletic, but unathletic for 245. I don't know what the hell he was doing. This is absolutely a stupid move. But I do think this is a proper time to take a swing on Renardo Green, who's very physical, very smart. I think that he's going to be, he tested better than I expected too. He's going to be a guy that Balky will really love. At pick 49 for the Cincinnati Bengals. By the way, Renardo Green is number 25 on my board. For the Cincinnati Bengals, went defensive interior earlier. We still have some really good offensive tackles right now. And I'm going to take a shot on Pachter Paul and move him to right tackle. He tested out so much better than I expected at the combine. And you know what? Overall, that's a guy worth taking a swing on. He's a seasoned veteran who has a really good track record. This team needs offensive tackle help. And maybe you could have gotten J.C. Latham and a defensive interior here. But this team's identity has been the defense. And Patrick Paul swinging him to right tackle or swinging Orlando Brown, who has been a right tackle, to right tackle. That's just a really solid return on investment. Pick number 50 for the Eagles, though. Round number 1 went Cooper DeJean. Round number 2, I don't think that there's a linebacker I feel very comfortable with. I honestly think that if you're going to, there's just not a linebacker that's worth it. Peyton Wilson with all the red flags, like that's a guy where you wait till round 3. Howie will wait till round 3 to draft. He did it last time with Jacoby, to draft an injury-prone linebacker. And again, there's rumors that he was one of 2 in the entire draft that were listed as, in quote, ugly. We don't need that. So I do think wide receiver certainly on the board. I love Ricky Pearsall to this team. I really do. Xavier Legette is almost ideal for this squad. Great after the catch. He ran like 22.7 miles per hour, 23 miles per hour after the catch. He's known for after the catch and ran a 4.39. I think you could wait till 54, though, for that. So looking at the best options for this pick specifically, you could try to get a Hassan replacement. It does kind of feel like Hassan is on his way out. You can get Chris Braswell at this point. You're starting to reach at straws, though. Probably one of the toughest teams to draft for. You have drafted offensive line 3 years in a row in the second round. Or, I think last year was the beginning of the third. Whoop-de-doo. You could take Blake Fisher as a developmental prospect. I'm not going to do that for y'all. Sorry. I could go another defensive back, but Kamari Lassiter, then you're really starting to pigeonhole what you're going to be able to do with Cooper DeJean. So, you have that there as well. I could actually go Kamari, have him go slot, and then have DeJean be safety / boundary corner. It's a little bit tough, though. This is a spot where I would totally trade back. So, full transparency there. I'm actually going to end up, but I really do love Malachi Corley on this squad too. There's so many good options for this team. I don't think that there's like just one guaranteed really good option. So, we'll actually go Ricky Pearsall. 6'1", 190 pounds, and somebody who has great over the middle catching ability. Very solid after the catch as well. Great explosiveness. He also kind of feels, I know a couple years ago, it was a UDFA, but I'm forgetting the Florida receiver you brought in. I actually thought he was very, very good. Didn't end up sticking to the rosters, but it is what it is. So might be a cool way of getting a little redemption arc there for Florida. Pick 51 for the Los Angeles Rams. Also, I could have seen them going after Ricky. But round 1, they went Leatu Latu. For this selection for the Rams, offensive line certainly in the mix. I do love the idea of Karan Ahmad-Jadjeh being able to sit and develop, or at least have a chance of kicking some ass. I do see Junior Colson as a. Did I already take Junior Colson? What the hell? Oh, I did. Huh, to his DC. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be a little sneaky here. No, I'm not. But other positions for the Rams, like I'm really starting to get stuck on this tackle idea. I don't think a quarterback's worth it for this team at all. Like just at this point, it's not worth it. Corner, I think slot's already covered up, so Kamari just doesn't really work. And now you're starting to reach for Andrew Phillips. Not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of TJ Tampa either at the moment. So we're actually going to go Karan Amajaje's 36-inch arms. Like this dude's a physical freak. He just can't test because, he had a quad tear. That sucks. Pick 52 for the Bears. We've already gone Dallas Turner as well as Caleb Williams, of course. Zach Frazier is here. Regardless of him not testing out unbelievably, he still is a very athletic player with multiple years of dominance in wrestling. And that's somebody that you want to anchor your defense or anchor your offense. So I am going to be going Zach Frazier. Pick number 53 for the Dolphins. Unfortunately, I wish we had the Legion of Zoom, but we already have Troy Fautanu on the squad to be your left tackle of the future, but also interior offensive line. Tight end, I think you can totally wait till like round 4. There's so many good value options. You don't need to force a tight end pick in Jatavian Sanders here. Defensive interior, though, you kind of need to take a peek at that. Unfortunately, you will be losing one of your best pieces. And, with Wilkins gone, Ruka Rojo is the guy for me because Braden Fisk has that major medical red flag. And he also has 31-inch arms. Rook is about 290, 300. This is a guy just about 300 pounds and is just a ridiculous athletic freak. Braden Fisk, on the other hand, he's almost identical, but he has short arms as well. Got to bring that up. Like, I'm not going to try to shit on Braden Fisk. He's a great player, but I just think Ruka Rojo fits a little bit more of that versatile pass rusher style that you'll be needing in the short run. Pick number 54 for the Philadelphia Eagles. We're back again. And I don't like these picks for the Eagles because there's just not a great option. Now, we could take Kalen Bullock here. I know that I'm pretty sure he's meeting with the Eagles as well. Could go Christian Haynes and potentially develop Steen to be the right tackle of the future. Could take Blake Fisher and end up having him develop to be the right tackle of the future. I think that'd be a smart move, but I don't know if we're going to be seeing Lane retire in the next 2 years. So to win now, the best move would probably actually be Kamari and then have DeJean be a safety and then have him and Sydney be a dynamic 1-2 punch, have Kamari in the slot, and then have the rest of the dudes kick some butt. Kamari did test a little bit better than expected. I wish he ran, but the 3 cones showed unbelievable potential. Unbelievable. Great fluidity. Like, that's a guy that you want in your secondary. And I think it's just best player available. Find a way to maybe restructure the cap a little bit for those dead cap hits, but I'd be getting rid of Bradbury and Slay ASAP. Kamari Lassiter is going to be a great piece of a developing defense. Cooper DeJean is going to be the pure safety. Kamari Lassiter is going to be your slot corner for the future. Pick 55 for the Cleveland Browns. I'm going to look at wide receiver for this team. Tez Walker ran a sub 4.40. He has the exact physical profile that I'd be looking for to replace Donovan Peoples-Jones. But Xavier Legette at the same time does the same thing. And I'm going to actually give some kudos to Xavier because he has more reliable hands than Tez Walker does. At pick 56, the Dallas Cowboys are back. Drafted JPJ round number 1. Could be a spot where we do see a running back, but I just think Trey Benson secured himself as the RB1, and there's not many guys who are very, very close. I know Micah Parsons said he wanted a big DT and a reliable linebacker. This class doesn't really have very much of either. Like, when you look at the DTs remaining, you got sub 300s everywhere. You can go McKinley Jackson, but that's a big reach. Mason Smith actually is someone who, if the Cowboys, who are known to reach right here, because, hell, they end up getting Luke Schoonmaker in the round 2. I'd be fine with them going after Mason Smith round 2, who is a top 64. Right? He might be like number 65. He's number 65 on my board. Big fan of him. I think that would be a potentially wise move for Dallas, but I think they also are in the market for that running back. Marshawn Lloyd just fumbles too much. That's the only issue with him. Jonathan Brooks could be considered in this range, but he literally is coming off an ACL tear. When you look at the options that you are given, Christian Jones from Texas might be a good get. Like you honestly, well, you know what? Screw it. We're going interior offensive line twice. We're going to have our elite center in JPJ. We're going to be kicking our left guard in Tyler Smith, the left tackle, and we're going to be putting Christian Haynes there as well. So JPJ, Christian Haynes, Zach Martin, Terrence Steele, and Tyler Smith. That's how you build an elite front, and that's how you're going to also have a really good run game as well. That run blocking is going to be through the roof. Pick number 57 for the Packers. They have already gone after Trey Benson as well as Kool-Aid. This is a great spot because they need both safety positions. Kalen Bullock all day. He actually weighed in a little bit heavier at 188 than I expected. 6'2" as well. And he tested out very fine. Not an elite athlete, but honestly, his overall game works so well. Elite 10-yard split, which is kind of what you're looking for. So shout out to Kalen Bullock. Great player. He's going to be a great addition to this team. Pick 58 for the Buccaneers. Ended up going Graham Barton in round number 1. Triple checking that happened, and it did. Got Mike Evans back on the squad. Let's go. So the next thing that you might want to do, you could go back-to-back interior O-line as well to get the guard and the tackle spot secured. But I do think linebacker and edge rusher are going to be their spots of priority. Braylon Trice might be worth taking a swing on at this point. 80 pressures on the year. Still developing his body as well because he just dropped 30 pounds to try to be more athletic when he really just should have appreciated his physical frame, maybe ran a little bit slower and was like, hey, this is who I am. Darius Robinson, though, I think it's worth taking the swing on him. You can kick him inside if you need to, but just the value of somebody who has so much power is it's worth taking. Pick 59 for the Houston Texans. Took Jerzon Newton in round number 1. Still think wide receiver is a good move for this team. Could go Tez Walker, but I actually think Brendan Rice at that 4.5 40 has played himself into this day 2, maybe even round 2 territory. Brendan Rice was not projected to run that at all. I thought he was going to be a 4.65, 4.7 40 type of guy. And he came out and said, hey, I'm actually athletic, so screw you. And I was like, you know what? Power to you, bro. You know what? I'm happy because everything else in this game is awesome. I honestly comp Brendan Rice to a miniature version, not stature-wise, but talent-wise, of A.D. Mitchell because he has the release package. He has a really good route running. That, to me, is worth taking and complementing what you have there in Tank and Dell as well as Nico Collins. Pick 60 for the Buffalo Bills. Oof. We have already gone after wide receiver for him in Keon Coleman. I already know I'm going to piss off some people with that one. But I'm also going to look at the safety core. Yeesh. It is not a good safety group. It is not. It's a really bad safety crew. Damn, that is not good. Like, Kalen King might be the next best safety. Talk about a downfall, by the way. That broke my heart more than anything. I actually might look for edge rusher here and see if we can get a developmental guy. Braylon Trice, this is where, you have time and patience to develop somebody like this. Defensive interior, you could try to get Braden Fisk and help out, but, Braylon Trice does have 80 pressures on the year, 10 more than anybody else. Hopefully he gets up that 275 frame and can get back to kicking some ass. Pick 61 for the Detroit Lions. Ended up getting Ennis Rakestraw Jr. in round number 1. At this spot, it's going to be down to guard, which I'm looking at the guys available, not getting too excited for who would be the next guy to fill in. But defensive interior, this is where I'd be willing to take a risk on somebody with a red flag if I really believe in their potential. And Braden Fiske is that type of guy. So some people say he is going to be a potential first-round pick. If the medicals are really that bad, he might be a third-round pick. Pick 62, we got the Baltimore Ravens. Ended up going after a right tackle in J.C. Latham in round number 1. Here in round number 2, they are not projected to bring back OBJ. So, Tez Walker, he has drop issues, but everything else seems to be pretty damn good. Malachi Corley, I feel like you're limiting the height of that receiving core a little bit. You got Johnny Wilson, though. Johnny Wilson wouldn't be bad. I know everybody hates him. Troy Franklin at this point might be worth bringing on. Just an awful gauntlet drill. Genuinely awful gauntlet drill. But he does fit everything you're looking for if you're trying to end up replacing OBJ. So we'll take the swing. We'll take a chance. Pick number 63 for the Niners. They went after right tackle and Tyler Guyton in round number 1. Here in round 2, I'm going to look at the corners available, and there's some good ones. I would like to throw Miles Harden if he didn't have injury history. I think could be a day 2 guy. Dwight McLaughlin for sure. Josh Newton had actually a pretty good day as well. Max Melton, certainly in the group. Andrew Phillips. I actually like Andrew Phillips a lot. Might be this pick, as a matter of fact. Kyrie Jackson. He's just old, but this is also a team that might not care too much about the age. Andrew Phillips might be the guy to take here, though. 6 foot, 190. Tested out very, very well. Reliable. Nothing really to concern yourself over, which is a big plus. So we're going to go Andrew Phillips out of Kentucky. Pick number 64, and ending off this draft, we have the Kansas City Chiefs, who have already gone after a wide receiver there in Xavier Worthy. Oh, man. Here we go. Looking at the defensive interior to pair up with Chris Jones for the future. I'm going to show some love. I'm going to go Mason Smith. The dude deserves credit where credit is due. This guy looked great in on-field drills. Don't sleep on Mason Smith. He's going to be one of my guys until I am 6 feet under. That's going to be the video. Thank you so much for watching. Showing the love that you always do. I love y'all. See you on the far side.